Sometimes the biggest storms in life don't come from outside, but from the very people we trust most. Imagine living an entire lifetime believing you know who you are, only for a single moment to rip that belief away. How does someone stand tall when the foundation beneath them begins to crack? And when truth collides with loyalty, is it courage or betrayal to demand answers? These were the questions circling around Princess Beatrice, a woman whose life seemed almost unshakable, until one headline, one medical test, and one envelope shattered the story she thought was her own. Princess Beatrice, daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, had always carried herself with quiet grace. At 36, she wasn't just a royal anymore. She was a mother, a wife, and a woman who seemed to have found her own balance away from the relentless gaze of the press. Her little daughter, Sienna Elizabeth, was her joy, her daily reminder that even under the shadow of the crown, life could be normal, even sweet. But peace never lasts long in the royal world. On May 21, 2025, while most of the country was still waking up, the royal household was thrust into chaos by a story no one expected. A story claiming that Beatrice, the eldest daughter of the Duke and Duchess of York, had been adopted. The shock spread like wildfire. By sunrise, newspapers shouted the same headline in bold print. Radio hosts discussed it with alarm, and television anchors repeated it every hour. Social media lit up with theories, debates, and merciless jokes. Outside royal buildings, crowds gathered, waiting for an official statement. Yet the palace said nothing. That silence was deafening, and in its emptiness, speculation grew wilder. Who had started this? Was there proof? Why was the family not denying it? The absence of answers gave the rumor teeth, and by the time the day turned to afternoon, those teeth had sunk into Beatrice's heart. Inside her home, she paced restlessly, phone in hand, emotions boiling. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but instead she found herself trapped in a cycle of disbelief and anger. She called her mother, Sarah, hoping for certainty. "Mummy, tell me it's not true," her voice breaking. Sarah tried to reassure her, calling it another press invention, another scandal for clicks. But even as those words fell through the phone line, they sounded hollow. How many times had the press invented stories? And how many times had they turned out to carry at least a kernel of truth? Unable to calm herself, Beatrice left her home quietly through the back garden, avoiding the reporters at her gates. She drove to Windsor, desperate for clarity. Inside her parents' home, she asked the question no daughter should ever have to ask: who exactly am I? Her mother answered with firmness: "You are Beatrice, our first child, our daughter. That has never been in question." Her father nodded in agreement. Old photographs were laid out on the table, proof of a life carefully documented. Baby pictures, birthdays, school days. For a moment, the evidence seemed enough. She allowed herself to believe, to push the rumors aside. She left Windsor calmer than she had arrived. But storms don't end because we ask them to. Weeks later, Beatrice fell ill. At first it was only a fever, the kind anyone might shrug off. But the fever lingered. Headaches began to pierce her days, her skin grew pale, and fatigue gripped her body. Her husband, Eduardo, grew worried, urging her to see a doctor. She resisted at first, insisting it was nothing serious. But the illness did not pass. Eventually, Eduardo insisted, and Beatrice was admitted to the London clinic, a place trusted by the royals for generations. Doctors began their tests quickly. The results were devastating. Her blood counts were dangerously low, her marrow failing to produce healthy cells. Dr. Carter, the physician overseeing her care, explained the condition in careful words. It was bone marrow failure, serious, but treatable with a transplant. To do that, they would need a compatible donor, most likely from her parents. It was the logical first step, one rooted in biology and genetics. Family often holds the answer. And so, the Duke and Duchess of York submitted their blood samples without hesitation, their sleeves rolled up, their faces pale with worry but steady with love. 4 days, Beatrice lay in her hospital bed, weak but hopeful, waiting for the results. She told herself her parents had always been there, always loved her. Surely, the match would confirm that bond. But when Dr. Carter returned with the file in hand, his face told a different story. He delivered the words carefully, but there was no way to soften them. Neither parent was a genetic match. Neither could serve as a donor. The room fell silent. Beatrice stared at the doctor, her voice trembling. "But they are my parents. How can neither of them match?" Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Her father's posture stiffened, as if bracing himself. Eduardo demanded the test be repeated, but Dr. Carter assured them it already had been. Twice. The results were the same. Though the doctor explained that a lack of compatibility didn't automatically mean a lack of biological relation, the doubt had already planted itself deep in Beatrice's mind. The rumors, once dismissed as lies, now seemed to take on a dangerous weight. That night, as she lay in the hospital bed, her body weak but her mind racing, she whispered the question that had haunted her since the headlines appeared. Who am I, really? Unable to let it rest, she begged Dr. Carter to go further, to run DNA tests with the samples already in the lab. He hesitated, citing protocols, but Beatrice was insistent. For her, it was not curiosity. It was survival. She needed to know if her life had been built on truth or a story too carefully crafted to unravel. Finally, the doctor agreed. 2 days later, the results arrived in a sealed envelope. When Beatrice opened it, her world split in two. No biological match. The rumors were not just rumors anymore. The woman who had kissed her forehead, who had held her hand, who had whispered encouragement through every storm, was not her biological mother. The man who had defended her through scandals, who had carried the York name proudly beside her, was not her biological father. The confrontation came that same evening. Beatrice called her parents to the hospital, envelope trembling in her hands. Her voice broke as she demanded, "Who exactly am I?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling as she whispered, "We only wanted to protect you. You were so young. It was complicated." Beatrice's voice rose, filled with anguish. "You let me live a lie. My whole life, every smile, every memory, built on something false." The Duke turned away, his composure cracking. Sarah reached out, her hands shaking, but Beatrice pulled back. The silence between them was heavier than any headline, heavier than any illness. For Beatrice, the truth was worse than the rumors. It wasn't the press that had betrayed her, it was her own family. Though a donor was eventually found through the international registry, and the transplant went ahead successfully, healing her body, the wound in her heart ran far deeper. She survived the medical storm, but her trust had been shattered. At home, once discharged, she sat with Eduardo in silence, the weight of the truth pressing harder than the illness ever had. "I'm done," she told him one evening. "Done with the lies. For 36 years, I carried their name proudly, stood by them through every scandal. And all this time, they hid my identity." Eduardo pleaded with her not to think that way, reminding her that love still mattered, that family is more than blood. But Beatrice could not shake the betrayal. Sometimes, once trust is broken, it cannot be rebuilt. The questions now remain. Was she right to demand the truth, even if it meant tearing apart the image of the family she once defended? Or should some secrets stay hidden, left untouched for the sake of peace? These are the questions that linger in the air long after the headlines fade. Because at the heart of it, this isn't just the story of a princess. It is the story of identity, of trust, of what it means when the people who shape us turn out to be strangers in the most painful way. So tell me, do you believe Princess Beatrice was right to confront her parents and demand the truth, even at the cost of breaking her family apart? Or was it better to hold on to the life she thought she had, no matter how false it may have been? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear them. And if this story gripped you the way it gripped me, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story waiting to be told.